T3. This has been many years, and I think the politics of our country, they changed the octave. It became a very high octave kind of politics. Our politics changed somewhere around 92, 97 there?
1990.
1990, let's say there. And with all this noise and with all this, there are gains that we have made as a country, but also we find sometimes the country is trapped, especially when political alignments have to get their men in the space instead of getting the right people for the job. So, Muriithi, to start us off, we would like really to get a brief analysis. Where is Kenya today?
Thank you very much. It's a very broad question, but I think I'll try and simplify. Narrow it and be a bit concise.
Yes, yes.
The running of a state,
yes,
the cohesion of a nation, the development of a country, they are all born in a constitution. So if Kenya would have, Kenya had a constitution like the one we have currently since 1963, I think we would have experienced things totally different from what we are now trying to do. We were able to, identify the disparities between life before 2010, life before the agitation of multipartism that began around the late 80s after Mlolongo, that is Mlolongo in a mode of election. Then the introduction, the need now to have an alternative way of governance in the country. The agitation actually began to be hyped in 1990. So those changes came about, and when Kenyans realized that the constitution, through the citizens' force, can be changed for the better, it is then now we came to the new constitution that we started working on in the year 2000. So what I'm trying to say is that the only problem that we have that causes us to stay in that ignorant state is because we had bad laws that were actually hindering us from even thinking about the law, questioning the law. You could not question not only the law, but even question anyone in a position of power, and not necessarily the president, even a chief. It was a problem. But now, when these freedoms began to be realized after the 2010 constitution, then the devolution that came about, the devolution has caused some change. So we cannot say that what used to be there then during the times when Kenya was managed with the old constitution, which did not have these freedoms. We would have had a different country if we had those freedoms right from the beginning, because our opinions are the ones which are now counting. Either they're coming through social media or directly, or whichever means that are there, or through the provided mainstream media platforms. Information is now getting to where it's supposed to get, and that's why we're beginning to feel something. So we're not in a very bad state. It's only that character-wise, we have seen a leadership that tends, not this regime only, even in the previous regimes, ignoring the law, despising the law, not adhering to the law. So that becomes a problem, and that's why you see examples like when people from Northeastern are told, hey, there was 1 trillion for you. It sounds like something that is so strange. When Michuki came and implemented a 1972 law about safety belts, we thought it's a new thing that came around. But you see, these were rights which were ours, but we were ignorant. We were not able to reach to it because we were gagged. You could not ask, you could not agitate, you could not complain. You just take it as presented to you by those in leadership.
So you say the two best things that ever happened to this country is the constitutional change and then the devolution. Have we really benefited from all these two? Is Kenya at an advantage because of the constitutional change and the devolution?
The areas I've been able to visit, I've been able to visit before 2010.
Yeah.
I realized that after 2010, there are so many counties, urban centers that actually began now to crop up in certain counties that had committed to developing their own area.
Okay.
And what has happened is that in that transformation, investors again began to flock. Maybe not in equal proportions according to various counties, because like now we're seeing that there are counties that now feel we had resources that will open up. We had people like Kenya who had already opened up earlier, and counties like Western Nyanza, they're not realizing, hey, so there is a way we can benefit from our schools. I mean, education-wise, health-wise, we can benefit.
Okay. We pause a little bit. We pause. Ngecheza montage. We continue. Continue. Okay. Yeah. You, Muridi, you are saying something.
Yes. So, like I was saying, even the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people, the people who are from certain counties, we've discovered that there is some slight improvement on education, the education sector, save for this time that we are seeing things being, rescinded, things that were working, when free primary education was introduced in 2000, when the new regime came in, 2002, everybody felt it, not only here in the urban cities or the areas that are bit developed, but everywhere. Everybody felt there was need now to join in these academic freedom that have been introduced by that regime.
Right.
Health-wise, like the free maternity services that were being offered by the previous government really helped so many people. I included, because I benefited from. I mean, the last born being delivered free of charge in a hospital.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that there are some good things that devolution has done. There are some good things that proper governance has done. But confining ourselves to devolution, today's government schools are not as they were. There is an improvement. The roads that were neglected, waiting the national government to come and deal with the small streets within the estates. Today, you petition the county government, and sometimes within time, some things are actually met.
Okay. I wanted to bring in Alan, Reverend Alan, and Kenya appears to be ahead of the pack when it comes to the East Africa region, but maybe we are better because we have no idea of what we should have been by now. We could be ahead, but not where we are supposed to be. Where is Kenya today?
I think I will break down 2 or 3 things.
Yes.
Number one, the minute we begin comparing our progress to the failure of other nations, we have already shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Because then at that point we are not competing with our potential. We are saying, because I am ahead, then I'm better.
Okay.
And then probably I'm living at 10% of my potential, which clearly that is a failure.
Yeah.
But based on what he has said, I would say in leadership, there's a concept that say an institution exists for only 2 reasons.
Okay.
The first reason is, what is the mandate? Do you know your mandate? Do you understand your mandate? And even governments, they exist because we give them a mandate. The people in political offices, they are there because we give them a mandate. The only other reason an institution exists is when it is meeting its stakeholder needs. such that then do we know who are the stakeholders? Do we know what their needs are? Are we meeting those needs? Now, I will tie those two things together. Mandate simply means we understand the problem we are solving. When we were running around talking about wheelbarrows, and now we are running around talking about the Singapore and all that, it's because we are trying to generate a mandate. We are trying to say, you know, give us this position so that we can be able to move us forward there. And when we agree to that, we align to that, we give you the mandate. And so we must then identify the problem that we are solving. The issue with governance in African countries is we have never understood the problems. We have never understood what is happening. You know, like there's a very amusing thing that is trending this morning. Everybody has been shouting one term, blah blah, fish cake and all these things, and then we wake up this morning and the party that should be on the way out has won probably all the by-elections for the MCAs. It's very amusing because we like noise, but we don't understand the realities, what is happening on the ground. So knowing your mandate is key, because even if you don't know your mandate, then you will be solving a problem that does not exist. You will be answering questions that nobody has asked, because you know, like development should be bottom up according to the current constitution. But you see, somebody just comes up and decides you need a road here. Probably you don't need a road. Probably you need something else. So mandates are key. And our mandate is captured in the constitution. And so we must understand the problem we are solving. Number two, we must understand another question. What is the cost of not solving that problem? We are where we are because we didn't know the problems you were solving, and we didn't know how it would affect us. And so we found ourselves with our fingers burnt. There is a third question.
Are you trying to suggest that sometimes our leaders are experimenting with
more often than not, they copy paste things from here and there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and they begin talking about things they don't understand. And so if we don't understand the problem, it's as simple as this, Rev. Good questions, good answers come from good questions. So if we don't develop the art of asking good questions, we will always find ourselves providing answers that probably are not even necessary. You know, so we must learn to ask good questions. Where are our people? What are they struggling with? What are their issues? And so that's where we get our mandate from. And I said, if we know the problem we are solving, then we must come back and go to the reserve and to the reverse and say, if we don't solve this problem, these are the issues that will emerge.
Yes.
The third thing is, why is the current government the best placed to solve this problem or not? So that then, if you understand the problem, you understand the cost of not solving the problem, then we must come back to you know, competence. Are we competent enough to address the questions that the citizens are asking? Do we have the capacity? Do we have the ability? And which brings me now to the second thing which I wanted to talk about, which is, it is always the leader. And leadership is not being in front. Leadership is simply a set of processes, a set of a way of thinking that makes people move forward. And if our leadership does not improve the quality of our lives, we may be having better broads than some country in a corner somewhere. But what is the quality of life? Do we have food on our table? We may be ahead, I agree, but have we looked at the corruption index? Have we looked at what debt are we in to get? What is the cost of being ahead? Is it helping us move forward, or is it pushing us back into a hole? And so if we were to give a situation analysis, I would quickly move away from comparing myself to any other nation that doesn't have the layered roads. I would ask myself, what is the quality of life or projected quality of life of somebody who has just joined class 1? By the time they're finishing their formation, what kind of citizen will this person be? And so that ability to be progressive, where we spoke on a previous program here, I think we were here, all of us, and the whole thing is, we want to arrive at a certain place within a certain period of time. the government of the day should take their quota of that and say, within this next 5-10 years, we are going to move from point A to point B. Somebody else will take it from point B to point C. And you'll notice that the most wasted resources are actually during election cycles, because any new government, any new member of parliament, any new, even member of county assembly, when they come in, the first thing they do is to discredit who was there. So we spend so much time dismantling what cost time, energy, resources, so that we can look like we are the man, instead of building on that to help us move forward. And so these two things, mandate and a stakeholder. Who are the stakeholders in government? It's every Kenyan. Do we know the needs of the stakeholders? Are we meeting those needs? And so that's why we come down to issues like education, health, you know, good roads, good road networks, and all that. Those are the stakeholder needs.
And before we because I wanted us to look more intently on 5 areas: infrastructure, economy, education, health, and then finally maybe we can look at our political situation as it is today. But you have talked about transitions, when we transition from regime to regime, and you say there is usually a lot of wastage, not only resources but even time, because we are bringing our cronies, our friends to. And so it's like actually trial and error, because the person you're giving a ministry, a whole ministry, maybe has never even been a chairman of board of management of a school. And you find there are leadership gaps. I will want you to throw in something about especially transitioning from, why do we have to send everybody home when we know the core of public service should not go home. They should remain. It is the politics who should be elected and come. But it looks like we come with a crowd and a cloud, and we want to fix them here and there, and maybe we end up with let's say, for example, every 5 years, before the new president can really get the country on the way to their development, to their beneficial situation, they have to buffer here and there, because they gave this lady a ministry, she has no idea what it is, and here and all those kind of buffering. Why can Kenya, and I'm throwing this directly to you, why are we not able to stick to professionalism? Professionals. During the time of Kibaki, we had those guys we were calling what? The
technocrats.
The technocrats. They are there. Why can't we stay with those? And then when the governments come in, the new presidents and new regimes come in, we don't have to go fishing for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come and be minister for health or something like that. You understand what I mean?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you, and it's where the rain actually begins beating us, because we have one of the most progressive constitutions, and he has correctly said, if we could only stick to our constitution, we would move faster and further than we are moving in the current governments. The current government is actually a good example. So much time was wasted getting this new person in, pushing out the other person and all that. And you realize it's not even constitutional, because the so-called technocrats are those who should be running government per se. Because the work of the politicians is to politic. And the minute there's a gray area around that, where a cabinet secretary will be on the political, doing rallies, stuff like that. We normally say, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to another thing. So when I say yes to politicking, I'm saying no to actually governance. I'm saying no to running the institutions as they should be running. And if only we could remain with that format, what it means then is the transitions would always be seamless. The problem is, when we say we are in government, that's the new catchword. You know, we're in government, tunataka power, you know, this and that. It's simply because we have a few cabinet secretaries that come from our village. We have, you remember the days of the flag, eh?
Yeah.
We have a flag in our area and all that. And so we end up looking at cosmetic things. We look at things that don't even affect the price of sugarcane in the village, because we are there's a concept in the African culture that is called the cows from our village are normally our cows. This is what it means. When I'm walking across the street and I'm seeing cattle from our village, even if mine is not there, I'll say those are our cows. And that thinking even affects how we get into government, because as long as we have somebody who has a name that sounds like mine, I'm okay with him being in government, whether he's competent, whether he's crazy. For me, I'm okay with having some, so that then even when somebody is corrupt in this nation, when they are fired, you normally see demonstration by members of parliament from his area. They sit down and they begin to say, you know, a person, we are being targeted, and this person is incompetent, or they are corrupt, or they have just been found to have been stealing. And so that chronism and you know, leading government like it's a private thing, it has always been what has been our biggest undoing, because we don't understand what mandates are, we don't understand the problems the people are facing, we don't know how much it's costing us. Because if you look at how much money it has cost us to come in as a member of parliament and leave a project hanging because I didn't start it, I start another one, I'm kicked out in 5 years, another one comes in, they start another one. There are so many white elephants in our area simply because we don't understand our mandates.
All right, Moredi Mweto, are we committed to our national leaders committed to giving Kenyans the best servants who can serve best and deliver services to them, especially in relation to what I had asked Alan Kefa?
Well, it all boils down to what we call morals and ethics.
Morals and ethics.
And that is individual character. It's nothing to do with professionalism. You can be an expert who is dishonest. You can be an expert who is not transparent. You can be an expert who is not a very good professional person, a good professional, but that person is not accountable. It boils down to character.
Okay.
So you can get a doctor to manage the Ministry of Health, but is the character of accountability in him? Is the character of transparency in him? You know, is the character of empathy in him? These are the kind of things we try to look at, and you don't find them in any faculty, in any university or any college.
Yeah.
These are moral things you learn by interaction.
But are you trying to say that it doesn't matter who is given the Ministry of Health? Is that what you are saying to
Absolutely,
us?
absolutely. I'm trying to qualify it. One, for you to run a ministry, you don't walk in every hospital and every department within your structure and run the affairs of every office. You get experts to do it. What we need is an intelligent person who can understand. When you tell him, TV's sugar tastes like this, and he requests to test and feels it's good, and it would work for the other people, then that's the kind of person we want. That is somebody who has understanding. And you see, I'm still breaking it into something we call character. The character of understanding. Training yourself to exercise wisdom where it's needed. Because if you listen to some of the things we hear when they are doing what we call a budgetary allocation, you'd wonder where was the sense of wisdom in deciding this, because there's a committee that sat on it, the whole parliament that sat on it and decided that this goes this way or the other going to go the other way, without checking the priorities of a certain a community, a certain locality. Now, what I'm trying to say is that I know the stereotype mentality that has been hyped by the so-called the elite class is that we must consider professionals. It's like preaching. There are colleges that will train preachers, but it does not mean that the fact that one went to college has now all ears open and all senses ready to sense the move of the Holy Spirit. That is an individual commitment. It boils down to the individual, you know. So there's somebody who will listen to what God is saying, having not gone to college, and do it as right and as God willed that it should be. And somebody went to the college and it bypasses it because the calculations that person was doing to try and you know, come up with whatever, I mean, to come up with whatever sense that would be born in a statement that has been dropped in his heart is the same thing. When I put an expert, a mathematician in the Ministry of Finance, it is good. Of course, they will help us, you know. But there's an economist, there's somebody who is well versed in matters investment. All these are people who have different degrees and they're put in those ministries.
People that are well versed.
You are
versed.
Thank you. You are expected to disburse these resources to people whom you ought to understand, not calculate them. You cannot calculate life. You can only interact with people to understand them.
Like transitioning like from Uhuru Kenyatta, like all the PSS that were aligned to Kenyatta must go home. All the PSS, all the accounting officers, they must go home. You know, don't you think that is a wastage of time before you get new people who can get grips on the issues that concern that ministry or that county?
Today we're criticizing the current government of killings and abductions. The former government was doing killings and abductions. The other government, we experienced killings and abductions. The Moi government, we experienced killings and abductions. Kenyatta government, we experienced killings and abductions.
So where are we?
So what I'm trying to say is, there is that element of updating the software of our mind. This is how we are supposed to think today. And I'll challenge those who are in the university today. What is the retirement age of a professor? It's around 75 years. You understand me? 75 years. At the age of 50, where we are right now, we get tired of looking at these things when doing research. Because of the glaring of the light and everything. We get tired. We doze off. So, what will hinder me from serving this young man what I discovered some 30 years ago? That is why our university guys are coming out, and they're coming out having been fed so much stale food. We have complaints that universities are not equipped with the right technology, right equipment, which are up to date with the current technology. Why? Because the one who is leading them, the software of the mind, is not getting updated. That is why there was a language that was cooked where they were saying, oh, children of this generation, this no generation that gets children. I must update my software to try and understand what my child is trying to talk about. Yet he's speaking from their level of technological and digital understanding. You understand? So when it comes to parenting, it becomes a challenge. So when we are so challenged, we say how our daughter was squeezy. Now, the same thing is happening even with the government. If I keep a person in office for 10 years, that person will exercise something we call monotonous thinking. The ideas he came with 10 years ago, he is still telling us, if you add me 5 more years, I will implement what I introduced to you. So that means he's not yet moved on. Yet technology in the outside world is changing. The people you're dealing with are growing. Their way of thinking is changing. But I can choose to be rigid, obstinate, headstrong, choose not to change, because these kids don't know what they're talking about. And that's why you could hear people insulting the young people, calling them watoto wanakula minofu na nini. But what I'm trying to say is, if you sit down to listen to them, like I said one day, that there is sense in nonsense. Elites, learned, those academicians believe that you cannot derive anything from somebody you believe cannot add anything to you. But a wise person will tell you the reason why we did not discard the little sense that is in the nonsense is because it may not be useful today, but tomorrow the sense may make sense. That is why it's called a nonsense. So there is sense in everything. It's only that it's not applicable right now.
All right.
If I may also mention, they have spoken about what do you call it? The elections. When I talk about elections currently, I speak as a political strategist right now as I speak. President William Ruto and his team can manipulate 2 elections of MCA, the ones that were there. But in my calculation, I have seen there are more than 3,400 positions, locations to try and manipulate for MCAs alone. There are 47 locations in terms of counties where you will have to organize how many billions you're going to spend to win a majority counties. It must be above 24. But let's see, 47 in the women rep, 47 in county governors, 47 in Senate, and 291 constituencies. Manipulating too, as a strategist, I feel nothing. In any case, the government is the one that has the resources. Now, let them manipulate a whole election that will have over 3,800 posts.
Okay.
They can't. So as a strategist, we are planning for the 3,800 votes. So 800 slots. So that is what I'm saying. Hyping or just thumping at the moment, to me, it feels nothing. You know, ni kama mtu mzima akipiga mtoto. Anasema unaona vile nimemshika. Unaona mimi hapana cheza na mimi. So that's how the government is behaving right now. But politically, yeah.
Okay. So let's go and look at those 4 areas, and I think we can look from the time of Moi, because I think in the leadership of the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, he was laying the structures and the foundation of the nation. So if it is advancement, we can barely begin to look at it from the time of his successor, although of course he took some good years in leadership. And comparing, like, let's talk about infrastructure, and you'll have a brief time to analyze from the time of Moi, come to the time of Kibaki, come to the time of Uhuru Kenyatta, and now Ruto. Where, as a country, where are we when it comes to the development of infrastructure?
We are not badly off, all things considered, because we have access, we have roads. I look back at my village, and as recently as 10-15 years ago, for somebody to go to school, you had to travel all the way to Nairobi to, you know, go to university or a college. But right now, probably in almost any corner, you will see a campus of a university and something. All those are very meaningful developments, because
we will come to education.
It's part of infrastructure development.
Yeah.
Because, for example, let me take Eldoret, because it's common to everyone. Eldoret, 20 or so years ago, was a very sleepy town. In fact, even the airports were not working. Just by bringing in a university in Eldoret, it simply means housing had to be improved, roads had to be improved. So many things came with just one development. And you see, if you do now the multiply effect of that when we devolve certain functions and we take them to different places, then it means the net effect of that is that jobs are created, people are getting, infrastructure is developed. These days you can get an Airbnb in probably a village, city like town like Chabakali. You will find an Airbnb or something, which means there is certain development that is coming with certain things. However, leadership is not linear, and so we cannot say that because we have done this, we have won the war. From the time of our founding father, there were 3 enemies. You remember those enemies? Education, health, and what was the third one? Illiteracy, health, and, you know, I'm scared that those are still our enemies. From 1963, it is scary, because it means We may have been moving in certain areas, but the key areas that we needed to conquer so that we can be able to move forward as a nation, we are still there. So it's like we are on, you know how a roundabout works. Eh? You are very busy, you are running around, but you are still in the same location.
Activity, but no progress.
There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of...
But the progress is minimal.
I mean, if you are still talking about health, if you're still talking about education...
Okay, let me ask you a direct question. In infrastructure development, do you feel like the budgets we've been pumping into the ministry for infrastructure expansion has moved the country forward? And you know you must have a national, consideration.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because we have these fancy roads. We have this, the nation is relatively open. I remember about a month ago, I drove from Nairobi to Kitale, and there's no place where I had a bad road. All the way I used the Kisumu road. The road was good. I went to Kaimosi briefly, then I came back to Kakamega and went all the way to Eldoret, then Kitale, and the road was really, really, really good. Okay. Which means the road network is better than many other places.
Is it as good as it should be?
Looking at what we have been spending, no, it is not.
All right, jumping on infrastructure. As a nation, infrastructure-wise, have we grown from regime to regime, especially considering from the time of Moi, the time of Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta, then now we have William Samoei Ruto?
Well, I think we've really achieved much, and what he has confirmed to me from his own village. During Moi's time in the 90s, early 90s, all the way to when I retired, when I was playing volleyball, we used to have tournaments in almost most districts. They used to call them districts. So we could have tournaments, taken to these places. And so through the journey, you could study a lot of things. And it used to happen every month. So definitely I have a clue of what used to be in Eldoret, in areas like Kakamega, Mombasa, wherever. So we know how it used to be. What I'm trying to say is that the devolution brought the services of the government much closer to the people, more open than it was when they were dealing with the DDC. It was called District Development Committee. When they were dealing with the District Development Committee, it was what the president directed from State House. That's what the DC implemented. But today we have laws that are empowering the county government to exercise their sovereign power to make decisions based on the needs of the residents.
So the question is...
Can I jump in because of something he said? Yes. We credit devolution to the current constitution. If you look back, what he has exactly said, the District Development Committee, there was district focus for rural development. There were things like rural electrification. There were things like the NALEP programs and all that. All these are actually principles of devolution. And so the nation was actually moving forward in a sense, and there are certain services that were able to get to the rural communities. We must give credit where credit is due.
The reason why I was actually doing that comparison in the past is because he can remember that there was a time in places like Ipipiri, politics was a bit more hyped in Mount Kenya region than it was in Western or Nyanza or any other place. When it comes to politics now, the up-to-date politics of the moment, the then president, like Daniel Arap Moi, was so concerned whether he's loved, supported or anything. And he could actually promise to put electricity or even tarmac, and the next day tractors come, lorries come, they pour tarmac, they do whatever they have to do, but before they lay the tarmac, his samples to see whether you still trust him and believe him. If you don't, he takes away everything, including the electrical poles. So that's what I'm saying. The DDC was being managed by him. It's unlike now money has been allocated to the county. It means the county governor can object whatever the president says and go to court and have him given the right to fulfill the promises that they had, now that the allocation has been done to him. So that is all saying the propinquity to government services, that one is there. But again, what hindered them is that they didn't have the power to overrule the president, not even the law.
Okay.
But the current law overrules the president. And you have seen a lot of what has happened during Kibaki's regime, during especially Uhuru's regime, and now Ruto's regime. It is so clear that you have to conform to the systems, or the legal systems of the country. And that is where I'm saying.
But now to develop or to do infrastructure, you don't have to have that allegiance.
And I still make a reference to what should be done with the NGCDF, although it's a legal fund, but illegal fund. But now that they're implementing it, they claim they're going to improve on education infrastructure.
Yeah.
So building classrooms and other things that would go with infrastructure development in schools. But those who are not doing anything with their whatever funds put in their hands, their areas remain backward.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because every member of parliament has 150 million Kenyan shillings to develop their area. And as you have heard, there are some who have decided to, develop the cities. I have sat down with people, I had sat down, and I mentioned here, I sat down with people from Northeastern to confirm this a long time ago, before even, I think it was towards the end of 2024. And they told me that, what's the problem with you people? Yet, when we bring our children to your counties, we pay fees in full. True, you pay fees in full. But why don't you develop schools in your area? It's good Gachagua brought it recently. And it's making a lot of sense. It's not an issue of government politics or this other politics.
Yeah.
Because that thing really got so many convicted that, hey, you have not been doing the right thing. Yet we now know that you've been having 150 million for our constituency. If you can imagine how much 100 million can do, it only takes like 10-15 million to have a simple primary school established. But they don't do nothing.
So, now, Muridi, we are happy. And when I started, I introduced the topic of discussion today. I said we may appear doing good simply because there's nobody who's doing better in our region. And we may be saying infrastructure, there's good infrastructure. But if you listen to what people say, people feel like the infrastructure has not been spread out in every place, like let's say roads and things like that. There are places that still lag behind. Number two, there are people who still feel like if the money that was released was not wasted, the infrastructure would have been better than it is today. I want to hear your comment.
Thank you. With the current system, we have care in every county. Devolved to the counties, we have care. The Kenya rural roads.
Are there some regions that are funded better than others?
Allow me to explain. I'm trying to explain this. I'm trying to explain it in very simple
I travel a lot for evangelism.
Yes,
I know where roads are and I know where there are
And I'm trying to explain this in very simple terms.
Yes.
While a governor from a place like Nyeri is thinking on how he's going to put Maram on, we call them the reserve roads, that makes the place accessible and easy to ply such routes. So that is development by itself. But look at other counties, what they're talking about. They're talking about tarmac. Okay? In my rural home, from EBN TV station to the gate of my homestead, I'll actually travel on tarmac and get to Maram. But who does the Maram roads? Who does the small roads? The county government.
Okay.
They were devolved to the counties under KERA.
The KERA.
but kura for the urban counties. You know? So if there's a failure in the management of resources presented to any county, remember, if I look at a county like Kitui, it is under the marginalized regions.
Okay.
So what is this? What is the system? Give them more, yet they are paying less in terms of tax collection from the area, but they're getting more than those who are paying or remitting taxes, tax funds to the public coffers.
And also when you go there, you find the roads are even fewer. The tarmac
They are
roads
fewer.
are fewer.
They are fewer.
The roads are really very bad.
That's what I was talking about, accountability. County of Nyeri, last year, I think submitted like 1.5, I think it's around 1.4 or 1.5 billion shillings in terms of tax they had collected to the public coffers. Then they expect to receive between 5 and 6 billion. Then somebody who never collected anything in Turkana, and they have the leadership and the constituency leadership and all these structures existing in that place, remits nothing or close to nothing, and receives 6 billion plus marginalization fund and equalization fund, whatever, to which totals to around 3 billion, plus all NGOs that take whatever financial support to these areas, unaccountable. Yet, a place like Turkana, to get a borehole dug, it only takes 600 feet to get fresh water. To get fresh water here in Nairobi, you'll have to dig up 3,000 feet. Otherwise, if you go to the normal depth that we go to, is 1,800 or to obtain saline water. 1,800 feet. Yet in Turkana, it's 600. Let me ask you, if the residents of Turkana, residents of Northeastern, do not say, we want to benefit from this share that the law dictates, that 15%, 20% goes to the county. We want to see our county of Isiolo all the way to the border of Ethiopia, which is actually blessed with a lot of wind, for wind power, which is blessed with sun, solar, for solar energy, that would be exporting energy. But what hinders this thing of exploring or even implementing these things of tapping wind power in Northeastern province and let them benefit from the resources, the 15% that would go to the county, besides now this hefty amounts that are given to their leadership.
Okay.
The leadership should be held accountable. But politically, you'll discover that maybe somewhere to get the cover that they have had for the longest time, maybe it's a connection with the national government and at the top position there.
So are you suggesting that the leaders that are coming from some of these marginalized places, they just want to sleep and they say that our region is bad, roads are bad, and whatever they are given, they still don't want to put into it? Maybe Ethiopia is small.
In 2010, there was a research that was done that Turkana alone, by United Nations, UNEP itself, United Nations Environmental Program, that Turkana alone can provide Kenya with more than 5,000 megawatts. While the consumption of power in Kenya, if we do it 24/7, by then it was only 3,500 megawatts.
The whole of Kenya.
Stima inalala on without caring kama nimeweka energy saver ama nimetumia gani. That is Kenya. So how much energy would you export just from wind from Turkana?
5,000. You say it's
5,000 megawatts.
They can produce.
They can produce. That's Turkana.
By wind.
By wind alone. You've not gone to Wajir. You've not gone to Isiolo, all the way down to Isiolo. You've not tapped that one. Go to take the solar energy that we waste away here in from northern area to go up there. And let's give you the reason why they don't allow it to happen. Ask yourself why the geothermal, having Kenya's Rift Valley being in the deepest crust of the Rift Valley.
The Rift Valley,
Considering it from Saudi Arabia all the way to Mozambique. Okay, we have the deepest, and that's why at Kinongi here we experience how the molten magma creates an electromagnetic field that makes our vehicles tunashanga. Gari ikienda chini inaenda speed na kanyaga sana, inaenda polepole. Ikienda juu inajipandisha. These things the geologists are not explaining to us. You understand? Why? Because there are people who are selling energy from machines. They have established machines in a go down somewhere, it's generating power. Those people will always keep you in idle. Remember what President Kibaki introduced when he said, tumia maji iliyo karibu na wewe kulima. He said, water is supposed to be for drinking, for our animals, and for farming. Why? Because he wanted to deal with this thing of power generation. We have Idera Africa, we have other generators, we have generators along Thika Road belonging to big families, you know. All these magnates, business magnates, are the ones who own these generators. So they wouldn't like you to even introduce the wind power that was created by the Kibaki government in Turkana was actually allowed just a little towards the end of the last regime into the green.
Trying to trap us.
Yes, because they sell power to the Kenya power.
It is illegal.
When it becomes dry, a little dry, they say hakuna maji, kwa hivyo hakuna steam.
So where is the government?
It is illegal.
Now
that's what the government plays
to
around.
be defending the citizens.
If the government if the leadership in the government would choose to conform to the systems defined by the law, Kenyans would benefit from all these natural resources. You heard Joe saying that we have gold in Meru, actually gold, and I don't know what else. We have these things. We have all these resources. But try uchimbe, one vile itakuwa. Because right now, Omega is here to be.
I was just chiming in.
I think what Muredi is saying is really something that is making everybody to want to question even more. And I'm throwing to you. Are there leaders in this country that are trying to perpetuate some of our problems, if so to speak, so that they can remain profitable, they can have profits?
The three enemies that the founding father of this nation mentioned, they are real. Because as long as people are in poverty, as long as people are in ignorance, as long as people don't know their left hand from the right hand, there's a scripture that says something like that. What it will do is that it will keep the people in power, because when you know a little bit more, you live a little bit better. So keeping people in ignorance is actually a strategy. Making sure that people don't come out of the depths of you see
right now there are people whose work is to keep us uninformed.
Let me give you the simplest of them is our education system. It's a filter. It's a whole filter, because you have this million students sitting for, let me use the older system. This million students sitting for class 8, and then half of them qualify for secondary. What happens to this other half?
Okay.
Then they go in and they go into secondary, they do whatever, then 1/3 of them qualify for university. You get into that, 1/10 of them qualify for higher education. By the time you're getting to the doctorate level, from class 1, you will get probably 1% of those who entered class 1 to get. It's a whole filter. So the system is designed to keep people out. And I'll tell you for free, the education system was never created to empower people. It was created to create workers for the colonial system. We have never changed that. We have never looked at that and said, now that we are no longer under the colonial powers, how can we create entrepreneurs? How can we create people who can think for themselves, people who are critical thinkers, people who can be able to make something out of their lives, as opposed to getting into a system that will leave them at some point?
But you see, now somebody will say, we ascribe to capitalism. And because we are capitalists, that is how it works. Somebody has to be poor for somebody to be rich.
Leadership is not linear. Leadership, when you are developing leaders, there are only 3 levels of leadership. Number 1 is leading self. Somebody who cannot lead themselves, they cannot even be a leader. And so when you are developing leaders, you teach them how to lead themselves. The next level of leadership is leading other people, where I can lead myself and lead somebody else. The third level of leadership is leading projects, because leading projects is leading through people. And when you get to leading projects, you have moved away from the linear thinking of leading self. Now you are thinking in complexity. You are thinking in levels. You are thinking different levels of people, different levels of, because a leader who cannot talk about the environment in the same way he talks about infrastructure, that's a dangerous leader, because they will not know things like environmental impact, impact. They will not know things like job creation. They will. So leaders must mature to a place where they're thinking in complexity. Managing complexity is the most important thing about leadership.
Time very fast, and there's an area I wanted us to cover, but I can see already.
Yes, I wanted to chip in on what he has said. First of all, I would like to disqualify what he said with a statement like ignorance is no defense. Because ignorance is a choice.
What do you mean?
Let me take it closer to the scriptures. If I want to know the will of God, I will read and sit with people who understand the scriptures better than I do.
Okay.
If I want to know something about health, it will be my onus to go to where the health experts are seated and listen and learn. So it takes a personal commitment to dig up and understand. But again, if you subject yourself to a level where I should cook for you, eat on your behalf, chew on your behalf, and swallow, and you clap for me, then it will be like so. And that's a position of choice. Unasema huyo chakula ni tamu, hata mimi nimesema ni tamu. Listen to what we did.
So what
when
do you
we
think
the
Kenyans can
I'll
do?
give an example of what Kenyans did.
Because if
let me give an example of the Kenyans. 2010 when we were making constitutions.
Okay.
There are people who voted kama Ranbaga ametoka Ulaya akaona ni mzuri. Baba akasoma akaona ni mzuri. Mbona mimi nipinge? And they voted in millions. And the constitution passed. Today, as we speak, it is now they're realizing there's something we call equity. While I presented my submissions, I started presenting my submissions in 2006 before Kiplagat Commission.
Okay.
While the professors and the experts he is referring to were talking about the constitution of Guyana, I brought them to the 45 tribes of Kenya. My document is at the Kenya School of Law because the deputy of Kiplagat was actually a lecturer at the Kenya School of Law. What I'm trying to say, it's always good to say something that you know God has actually done through you. I brought that sense while Kiplagat was still trying to shut me up because I'd written on that copy that I'm a plumber. So the condescendence made him shut me down even while I was still within my preamble.
You had written what?
While I was submitting my views on why the constitution failed, while I was introducing the preamble, he was shutting me off until the intervention of that lecturer, the vice chair. So what I'm trying to say is, the elite think they know. They were talking about Guyana. It was a very renowned lawyer, and I'm not going to mention him, who spoke before me. And the next one was to be the late Dr. Bonaya Bodana. What I'm trying to say is, these were people, so I was wasting time. A plumber is wasting time for the doctors to come around. Unfortunately, there was an accident that came up. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm only trying to explain that Kenyans have actually broken the mark of illiteracy. Kenyans are no longer ignorant. Kenyans understand. And in our submission at that time, I told the chair that we should now make a constitution befitting the 45 tribes, not the UK, which is ridden with class consciousness. You know, if you're not for the royalty, then you are in this higher class of lords. Then you become a commoner. Those are not people who respect humanity.
So now turn it to us.
Racism.
Turn it to our situation.
Coming now to Kenya. Coming now to Kenya. Whenever we make comparative references as in United States is like this. We are totally different when it coming to addressing social issues, political issues, economic issues, comparing ourselves to the so-called the idea, notion implanted in us of developed and less developed. You begin to despise yourself. That is why Turkana remains a shrine for Zinjanthropus. Yet the people told you, the archaeologists, the Likis, when they told you for the sake of the British government that Zinjanthropus, the man who lived there 33 million years ago, now don't dig up that place. You know, who is digging the oil today? It is tallow from Buckingham. You understand? They had to make sure you people don't tap the resources that we have discovered are there. And Kenyans are here being bamboozled by EPL, you know. Men from 50, 60 years down are talking about a dead skin and men on short trousers running around, and that is what we can discuss. Instead of discussing the oil in
resources,
the oil in the northern Kenya, the sunshine, free sunshine in northern Kenya, wind in northern Kenya, we cannot discuss all these things. You know, poor governance and lack of vision. When he talks about, and not him, and the other people who are stereotyping this notion of keeping people in office, yet we have somebody who is saying, no, I don't care what Iran says about the oil, because the rock brings, puts us in an advantageous position in terms of oil that flows from up there. Let them do what they have to do. We'll deal with it. They're not beyond God. We need leaders who can say that, but you don't want leaders who will say, hey, unajua walituambia tusichimbe mafuta, like what they did to our former president Moi, retired the late, because he couldn't stand the pressure from them, you know, and the US and other countries, because they knew they benefit from oil from Saudi Arabia, they could defend them. So what we're saying is that we need our independence. Shackles of the mind, we break them.
We might have,
and the breaking them is seeing the constitution that we have, act on it to the latter. Whatever needs to be corrected, then let's have a process of correcting that law. We'll have a better Kenya.
And you know, this conversation is supposed to deal with exactly what you were saying. If the colonialists hid some things from us, so that we don't develop and come out of, you know, poverty, and then we get leaders in our time who are hiding from and who are manipulating the citizens for their own advantage, then we need independence, as you are saying. Gentlemen, we are running out of time, and we need to come again. And now we will ask the manager to give us a little bit of more time. Maybe we can start a little bit early so that we can thrash these issues and discuss them well. But I feel like where Kenya is today, we are not supposed to be there. Personally, I am not very old, but I think at my age, I can look back and look at the present and say, I think there are people that have perpetuated our poverty, our suffering, and I think our suffering is an advantage to somebody. And these are the things that we as Kenyans, we should be dealing with. I'll be giving you time to say your last submission, and then we are out of this place. Alan Kefa.
For me, my closing remark would be around our perpetually being in campaign mode, because every other time we're always in the streets, and I'm yet to see a leader who would be concerned.
When that happens, is the citizen who is at a loss.
Yes.
When the politicians are running up and down and, you know, shouting at one another and politicking all the time, who is at loss?
Actually, that is part of the issue. But for me, the issue is there's no who is concerned that you can get an audience of 10,000, 20,000, sometimes even 50,000 people on the street on a Tuesday morning, and they don't see that as a problem. Because it simply means we have our levels of unemployment and idleness is more than we are actually admitting. Because if you can get people to demonstrate in the streets, you remember there was a day people were demonstrating every Thursday, and it was not a few people. It was the whole city would be in a standstill, and no leader was thinking, where do these people come from? And if you called tomorrow, they would still be available. And there's a day there were demonstrations for a whole week. For me, that is a massive problem, because it means these people have nowhere to go. They have nothing that they engage with every day. They are available to come to take a hand.
The leaders are happy that people are there in the streets.
For me, that's a very scary thing. It is an accident that has already happened.
All right. So what we need to do as a country, so that we can, you know, make sure the country is developing at the speed it's supposed to develop.
For me, we need to deal with the Messiah syndrome, where there is this person will come from the sky and you know, from my village and help my village, you know, so that then every time I'm sending somebody from my village to parliament, I don't vote based on issues, I don't vote based on whatever, I'm voting based on the last name of the person. That is where the rain begins beating us.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. That kind of notion, that's where we end up sinning. That's where we end up sinning on this. Jesus Christ asked them, who do they say that I am? And they mentioned all the names that they hear people calling Jesus Christ. And he also posed the same question, but you, not a single person, you, who do you say that I am? And long story short, there is one now who shot up and spoke the mind of Christ. And Christ told him, it's not you, it's God who spoke through you. You get the point? What I'm trying to say is that Jesus Christ expected each one of them to have an opinion. So he expected him to say this, Peter to say this, John and Andrew to say whatever they thought. Now, information is power. If in these rallies, there's a lot that is being exposed, you can't believe the kind of energy the youth of northeastern Kenya today have in terms of demanding and agitating for their right. And he's still calling them rallies. But from where would it have made sense? Speaking from his house without any media, without people? This is the age of social media. And like we said, the digital whatever formation is now expecting us to update our software and fit in. And that is what the strategists in these groups have taken advantage of. So what I'm trying to say is that the exposition, like the one that was done by Rigathi Gachagua for the northeastern Kenya, and many other things that the government intends to do, and they halt it simply because it has been exposed. We can call it bad politics if we do not understand what is happening. But it's whose resources are being saved, whose lives are being saved. Right now we're talking about RCF. You saw the headline. We have allowed, there was a declaration by the president that any person from any African country can walk into Kenya without visiting our embassies, you know, because you don't need a visa. Visas are issued at the embassy. So if you can walk into this country, while walking to their country, I have to obtain a visa from the High Commission. So the point essence of having those High Commissions, are they just investment departments? No. We are supposed to protect the integrity of this country, and that is not what is happening. You heard that there's a rebel group or a revolutionary whatever, a rebel group in Sudan that has been labeled as people who are not so friendly to humanity. And they have the RSF, they have Kenyan passports for free, while a Kenyan is queuing for months to obtain that legal document and develop himself and begin to post resources to this country. What I'm trying to say is there is a miscalculation by the leadership of this country. If they would get down to respecting the people, respecting the systems, respecting the law, then we would have a better country. Like I say, it all boils down to the Constitution, and it boils down to personal conviction. Kenya would not be where it is today.
And we must draw down the curtains when it is getting so hot inside here. And Kenya must be where it is supposed to be. I think sometimes we get too excited about who is rising, who is pulling crowds, who is, and many times that is not what we will eat when it comes time for supper. And many times we are excited with things that really don't make our lives better, and that is why Kenya has stagnated. We keep on saying Kenya, we are proud, we are ahead of Tanzania, we are ahead of Uganda, ahead of Rwanda, but we are only ahead simply because we have no idea where we are supposed to be. If you are competing with a weak person, or you are a grown-up and you're competing with a child, like Moredi said, then you will always be saying, oh yeah, hurrah, I have won. But the truth of the matter is, who are you competing with? So Kenya, I feel we can do better. We have really wasted a lot of resources and time and trying to please people, please the, you know, there is a way the elite holds the country at ransom, in a way that even when contracts come, it is ile familia ule nani alikuwa kwa government ya Kenyatta or yule, so the contracts are being given in a way because there is a clique that must have the contract, and the normal person to penetrate and get the contract and do the roads, it becomes quite hard. And we want a better Kenya, and we want Kenya to be at where it's supposed to be. And Kenyans, it's up to us to wake up and begin to demand that when resources are released, they go where they are supposed to be. A politician cannot do things that please him. He must do things that help the citizens to be better. You can brag about a big road or a big project, but that is not what the citizens really will make the lives of the citizens better. And that is what we should demand. Do for us what improves our living and what improves our country. We are going to be back here next Friday and asking ourselves, where is Kenya and where is Kenya supposed to be? Otherwise, from all of us is bye-bye and see you next Friday. Asante sana.
Okay.